Hello everyone, welcome to NintenDormant, the podcast where we discuss Nintendo games that have been left on the shelf. I'm your host George Banks, and joining me this week we have a talking sock. A talking sock, hello.
Hello, thanks for having me again.
Well, thank you very much for coming back. It's always a pleasure to have you on. You are not facing off against John Cartwright this week, though. This week you are joined by the encyclopedia himself. It's Josh Goldie. Josh, hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
It's weird for me to not be faced off against John at this point.
You do dominate these quizzes, Josh. I might start keeping a league table. But I will say this, for today's episode, so today we'll be talking about arms, but Sock has also been gunning. You've been gunning for this one, though. So how are you feeling confident about the quiz when we get to it?
Oh, I'd like to think I am. We'll see, though.
He's thrown down the gauntlet. This is all. I love this. Everything I'm saying is sort of on brand with the game that we're going to talk about, and it's sort of happening completely by accident. So I'm very pleased. Yes, thank you both very much for being here. Since we've last chatted, Sock, I think the Switch 2 pre-orders went live. How has that worked out for you? Did you manage to snag one? How's it over there?
I was never planning on pre-ordering. For as much as I like to stay up to date with Nintendo stuff for the channel, as well as just for hobby reasons, I don't think I'm in a financial state / timing state to bother with any of that. So, we'll just see. We'll see whether or not they're easy enough to pick up come July when Donkey Kong comes out.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good plan. I mean, I'm sort of thinking I might have to skip a few dinners just to be able to afford some games. But how about you, Josh? I haven't even asked, actually, if you've managed to secure yours. I think we had a slightly easier ride over here in the UK.
Yeah, we did, to the point that it was actually, you could just buy it from the Nintendo store the other day. Yeah. I don't know if it's now sold out, but they did the whole invite thing, and then, was it been like 2 weeks later, they were just like, forget it.
Just take it.
Yeah. Anyone can have it now.
It's a free-for-all.
I did manage to pre-order mine. I was debating whether or not I pre-order it through Nintendo and cancel the one I had, and then I was like, you know what? It hasn't been that difficult to get it. I'm sure the people I pre-ordered it for do actually have stock.
Yeah.
Because that's the risk, right? You don't want to get to the day and then the retailer turns around and is like, oh, sorry, we had one less than we thought.
Sorry about that. I really miss did you guys ever go I've managed to get my pre-order. I'm really excited that it's just going to turn up on my doorstep on the day. It's all fantastic. But I do miss midnight launches. I really loved the last midnight launch I did was for the Wii U. That was a bust. But no. Great console. We love the console. We don't need to get into that. But I was there with my 3DS. Was it 3DS back then? Yeah, I think the 3DS came out first.
Yeah, 3DS.
I was there with my 3DS, getting street passes, playing games with people out on the street. Just had a great time with loads of Nintendo fans. Did you guys ever do a midnight launch for a console?
Think not for a console. I think the only time I've ever done a midnight launch for anything was Pokemon X and Y, of all things.
That's nice.
I happened to know a game near where I was living was doing a midnight launch,
right.
And so me and my friends decided, you know what, let's go down there. They were throwing on a bunch of Pokemon celebrations. They did a Smash Brothers Brawl tournament where you could only play as Pokemon characters.
Oh, that's great!
Yeah, they had a guess the Pokemon game. I played as Lucario and I won. So
okay, I'm gonna have to. Nice. I'm gonna have to settle this score. We're gonna have to play each other online because Pikachu's my Smash Brothers boy. How about you, Sock? Do you ever you ever sort of wander out at midnight to pick up a game or a console?
Never a console, but a couple games. The last midnight launch I was present for was Smash Ultimate.
Oh yes,
my local GameStop, which isn't around anymore. A lot of them have shut down in my area. But it was doing a midnight launch. It was not only doing a midnight launch for Smash Ultimate. I say midnight, it was probably more like 10 p.m. I remember it vividly because the Game Awards were happening on the same day, and Joker was announced to be the first DLC character while I was in line to pick up my copy, and I was I was sort of watching it on my phone, with my headphones in. Mm-hmm. So I just sort of broke the news to everyone in line. I don't know anyone here, it's California, people aren't as chummy as other places in the world, but I just sort of said hey, Joker's going to be in the game. And everyone was like, wait, what? The guy's behind the counter. Everyone's how do we verify this information?
Yeah.
I was like, they just announced it at the Game Awards, and they were like, no way.
Yeah, I was going to say,
that was fun.
Some people just like, you're lying, and that's not going to happen.
Don't you spread misinformation here.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't remember if it was a midnight launch, but I went to an event for Pokemon Sun and Moon. That was very cool, just sort of playing the game and trading and battling. And yeah, I think it's exciting that a lot of people are going to be picking up their Switch 2s early. But, you know, there is something about being there with a bunch of people who all, you know, are so excited for the same thing as you.
Yeah.
So obviously, Sock, you've mentioned Donkey Kong is going to be your launch pick if you can pick it up in July. Personally, I'm just going to delve back into Tears of the Kingdom, I think, because I completed it, but I didn't sort of do everything. So I'm quite looking forward to playing the upscaled version of that. How about you, Josh?
Oh, Mario Kart, obviously. Like, it's going to be Mario Kart and Welcome Tour are the two Nintendo games I get at launch, and then I'll get Deltarune and Fast Fusion as like my two extras.
You bought Welcome Tour.
I like Welcome Tour. I liked it when I played it at the event.
It was fun, but it's like it should be free. It should be a free experience.
It's like £8.
Oh, okay,
like,
yeah.
It's nothing.
You might have pushed them up. I didn't buy Mario Kart out of principle on price, and I'm really getting like quite serious FOMO about it now. I think
Did you not get Mario Kart with your Switch too?
No, because I like having physical games because I'm an idiot, and I know. Do you know what? Maybe.
Tut.
Okay.
I don't blame you.
You've got a month to make me cave. So, there's very strong chance that I will cave because Mario Kart is definitely a game that I'll want to be playing when the Switch 2 comes out. But we're going to play another little game right now. Yes, it's time for the NintenDormant Quickfire quiz. 2 rounds, fastest finger first, followed by play or pass for double points. And as always, we'll let our guests choose our buzzers. I had actually forgotten about that. I just said that automatically, and I hadn't felt the dread about the buzzer picks. And now I just had the sort of the familiar wave of nausea sort of cascade over me as I said that sentence. Who am I going to go with today? Sock. It's been a while since you've been on. What buzzer will you grace us with today?
Dr. Coyle has specific voice lines when she wins against each character in her Grand Prix run.
All right.
If you can find a clip of her saying, "Sayonara, Ninjara," I think I'd like that to be my buzzer.
That's nice. And that's a very aggressive buzzer. I think that's really really throwing it down to Josh here. Okay, Sayonara Ninjara, we can do that. Josh, How about you? Are you going to go on theme? Or are you going to go on Josh theme, which is just something Wario related, basically?
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm genuinely trying to think of something. The only thing that came to mind was like Springman saying like boing or something like that. But I'm trying to remember if he actually said that. If I just made that up.
We'll touch on it.
He does.
He does. Then let's do that because that was immediately the first thing that came into my mind.
Excellent. I was replaying a bit of the game just to sort of warm me up for today's episode. And we mentioned it a little bit in the Punch-Out episode, Josh, about sort of leaning into stereotypes. And two things that leapt out at me about Springman are, one, why? I've got balloons floating up on my screen.
Birthday!
How have I done that?
Happy birthday!
This is the second episode in a row. My Mac just keeps doing it. Right, and you're not even going to see it. Anyway, the two things, right, is that he says he likes pizza as part of his bio. And then if you win a game, he says, "Oh, bada bing!" And I just thought, "Oh, guys, please learn your lessons about the stereotypes." But
it's a real Italian American.
It's a real authentic Italian
real
American.
New Yorker right there.
He could be Pope. Right, let's jump in. So, fastest finger first, please. Fingers on buzzers. Question 1. Here we go. ARMS is a first-party Switch exclusive title, but in what year was ARMS released?
Yeah.
Oh, that's tight. It's Josh.
It was released in 2017.
It was. Do you remember the month by any chance?
June, I think.
Oh,
June 2017.
Yes. Really, really early Switch title. Like, I kind of forgot how early on it was on the console. And kind of like, their flagship first party.
It was their main thing to show off the Joy-Cons, right? That wasn't 1-2 Switch.
Yeah.
So, and given nobody bought 1-2 Switch, it was truly the first thing they had to show off the Joy-Cons.
Yeah, and I think it's a great game for it. Obviously, we'll get way more into that when we get into the sort of meat of the thing. But I do remember seeing that and thinking, this looks awesome. That's like a great application for those. Basically Punch Out, but bigger and brighter.
Longer arms.
And bigger, brighter, longer arms. That should have been the tagline. And more, that should have been the tagline. Although I don't know if woke was a thing back in 2017, but who knows? By the way, I should say if you've not listened to the Punch Out episode, that's a callback. So thank you, Swith. Excellent callback. Question 2, here we go. Bite and Bark are the police bot fighting duo, but what can be seen on Bark's back, which suggests the method in which he's powered up? Oh, it's Sock. That is quick.
Yeah, very quick.
He has got a wind-up key in his back, George.
He does. He's got a little wind-up key. Nice. Do you know what? Me of little faith, I had 3 options in case you guys didn't know. But yes, little wind-up key. You're definitely going to know this, but can you remember how you spell Bite and Bark?
B-Y-T-E for bite and B-A-R-Q for bark.
Yeah, excellent. I really
They were my mains when I first picked up the game.
Oh, no way.
I love them.
They're very cool. Bark, when you're fighting against them, Bark really irritates me. It just spits out a glove at you every so often. But if they're your mains, do you get to I never really played as them. Do you get to control Bark, or is he just kind of automatic?
If you hold down Y, I might have customized my controls, but if you hold down the charge your arms button, he will come in front of you, and if you leap forward, then you can jump on his head and sort of get some height with him.
But
awesome. Other than that, he punches on his own and he roams around on his own. And if you get knocked out, his instinct will be to come over to check on you, then throw a punch at the person. So,
little Bark.
Boy.
He's a good boy. All right, fingers on buzzers. Question 3, here we go. Which arms fighter is the only one who can move whilst blocking? Oof, Sock again.
Now, when you say move, do you mean move around the arena, not staying in place?
Yeah.
Lola Pop.
Yep. Wow. Nice. Josh. This is an impressive
I had a fear about this. I could see this coming.
Now you know how John feels.
Too good for too long, Joshy.
Yeah. Yes, it's Lola Pop. That's her unique skill. Very handy little skill as well to be able to do that, because otherwise you're kind of just a sitting duck to be grabbed. But yes, Lola Pop. Well done. 2 points to 1. Question 4. Min Min was the arms fighter that officially made it into Smash Brothers, but which characters have costumes for Mii fighters? Oh, that's Josh. That was quick.
Mm-hmm. So it's Springman, Ribbon Girl, and Ninjara.
It is. I should have known you'd get the Smash Brothers one, Josh. In there, and I think we've talked about this before, Josh, but you have presumably a completely perfectly customized Mii for each one of those fighters.
Oh yeah, for every Mii fighter costume in the game.
Absolutely, yes.
I have a custom one.
But of course,
we need to do. We should do a gallery, like a side by side for each character, and see how well they match up. Yes, Springman, Ribbon Girl, Ninjara. I wish they could have had their stretchy arms, but I'm glad they're there. They're good costumes.
Yeah.
That takes it to 2-2 for fastest finger first. So this will decide. Fingers on buzzers, please.
Locking in.
A certain weapon was created in the ARMS universe that attaches itself to a fighter. It's Sock. I'm not even halfway through the question.
Finished.
Go on.
Headlock.
It's Headlock. There. He's nailed it. I'm going to just read the question so you can see how ludicrously early you came. The phrasing for the question is very long, but it was certain weapons created in the ARMS universe that attach itself to a fighter and takes control of their mind, spewing 4 extra arms in the process. What is this weapon called? Yes,
I think if you, as soon as you'd gotten to controls their mind, I think I could have got it there.
Yeah. All right. Fair. Headlock, who I'm very upset that you can't ever play as.
If you do Headlock Scramble in the multiplayer.
Online,
there is a multiplayer mode, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's just I want to do a Grand Prix with him, but I don't know if it would be, or maybe a way to unlock him so that you could then take on multiple fighters in sort of a one-off go.
Secret character.
Yeah, it feels like Headlock was a missed opportunity there. I think. Mm-hmm. That makes it 3 points to 2 for Sock. So Sock, you run fastest finger first. Well done, which means you'll go first for play or pass for double points. Are you ready?
I was born ready.
Yes, you really were with this one. It's nuts. All right, Here we go. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've already answered this one. ARMS began with a base roster of 10 fighters, but added another 5 as DLC. Do you know what? I might change this question because you've literally answered.
It's too easy.
It's too easy. It's too easy. I'm gonna see if you can do this. We'll make it play or pass. I'm gonna make this hard. I'm gonna amp up the difficulty. You two are too good at this. Here we go. Okay. ARMS begins with a base roster of 10 fighters, but added another 5 as DLC. Who are the 5 DLC characters? No multiple choice. Just if you know it or you don't.
I know it, and I know it in order too. It is Max Brass, followed by Lola Pop, followed by Misango, followed by Springtron, and concluded with Dr. Coil.
That is mad. Correct. Yes, very good. Max Brass, Lola Pop, Misango, Springtron, and Dr. Coil. My original one was just going to be, what's the name of the doctor? And I had multiple choice. What a waste of time. Josh, would you have got that one, do you think?
I actually forgot Max Brass was a DLC character. For some reason, I thought he was in the base game.
See, I was thinking
he technically was as the final boss.
Yeah. That's what I think makes it. Because I knew Dr. Coil was last. I knew Springtron was there. I knew Lola Pop was there. Misango I could see, and I was just sitting there in my head like, what was his name? What was his name? So I never really used him. So
yeah, he's not one that I remember. Funnily enough, I remember all the DLC characters, but he's one that kind of just faded from my brain. It's I don't know why. Just didn't really click with me. Anyway,
he's just sort of awkwardly in the middle of the pack.
Yeah, yeah. Favorite character of the DLC pack, Sock?
Dr. Coil. Yeah. I think that whole Dr. Coil update is one of my favorite video game memories just in general.
Yeah,
the amount of lore and world building confirmations that came with that update was brilliant. I'm surprised the updates ended there, aside from Party Crash and stuff like that, because it felt like it was just the beginning.
Yeah. We'll get into that about the sort of support for the game, because I think a lot of people have kind of different opinions on the level of support that Nintendo offered. But yeah, it was great. I think it's a game that's packed full of lore. Don't think it does enough with it, but it's packed full of lore, and that's very interesting. Right, Josh, your question then: play or pass?
Okay.
Now again, I'm not going to give you multiple choice because you guys are too good at this. So,
oh no,
you'll be fine. ARMS is a condition that causes an appendage to gain its unique springy quality. But who is the only character confirmed not to have this condition?
It's Mechanica.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
This is too easy. I gave you multiple choice. I thought Twintel might have tripped you up.
Twintel, because her hair obviously has it, but her arms don't themselves.
Exactly.
But it's not confirmed. It's not confirmed whether or not she actually has it. She has the spirals in her irises, so she probably does.
You've literally you've just answered the next question.
Oh no! Sorry, George.
I'm just going to give you the 2 points. 1, 2. Right, let's pretend just for fun. Okay. All right. Question 3. Are you ready, Sock?
I'm ready.
As well as the springy appendages...
I wonder what you'll ask.
Oh, yeah, here we go. As well as the springy appendages, the ARMS condition causes one other physical indicator. What's this indicator?
If I recall correctly, people with the ARMS condition, the ARMS phenomenon, have spirals in their irises.
Correct. Wow. I can't believe you got that. Yay. Whoa. kind of taking the wind out of the quiz. It's all good. Yes. No, see, I thought it was confirmed because I thought Mechanica doesn't have it. She's just got solid pink eyes.
She doesn't have... Yeah, she does have solid
eyes.
Yeah,
Mechanica doesn't, but Twintel does.
Yes, right. So Twintel has ARMS. So ARMS can be something else. It doesn't have to be...
Yeah, ARMS don't have to be ARMS, apparently.
They can also be trees or dogs.
Yeah. Well, I obviously John Cartwright is not on this episode, but when I was sort of thinking about this episode, I would have bet £1,000 that if John was on this one, he would have pitched Legs as the sequel. Like you just know, right? You just know.
You just got that feeling.
You get to the point, yeah.
I will say though, does Byte technically have the ARMS thing because he's a robot, right?
Well,
is he?
I did
technically not.
I did think about adding the qualifier of like humans, because obviously there's Helix as well, who's
Helix
like,
and Springtron as
like
well.
a blob. So there, but you know, I think if we're getting to that point, we're I don't know if we need to have that level of pedantry. Yeah. Had there been a dispute, I would have settled with that. Fair. Right, Josh. So it is 7 points to 4. So can't take the quiz, but we can get it as close as possible. Are you ready for this question?
Yes. No.
You're ready. I thought it might be tricky and catch you out. It's definitely not going to. I'm not even going to build it up. You see this character all the time in ARMS, but what's the name of the commentator?
Oh, it's Biff? Is that his name? Biff? Yeah.
Yeah! Hooray!
Yay!
Money.
It's one of those things I thought, like, I couldn't remember the name, because I was like, I know he says it every so often, but you don't see it that often, so it kind of slipped my mind. So I thought, it might catch one of you out. But no, you guys are just too good. So at the end of the Quickfire quiz, at the end of the least exciting Quickfire quiz we've ever hosted, Josh has 6 points.
I liked it.
But I'm glad somebody
What a surprise.
Josh has 6 points and Socks has 7, which means Sock will be going first as we move into the main event. So yes, the game we are talking about today is the first-party Switch exclusive, ARMS. A quick history lesson for those who don't know. ARMS was developed by Nintendo's prestigious EPD division and released in June of 2017, just 3 months after the Switch's release. A 3D fighting game, you control one of 10 armed combatants with stretchy limbs as they box, grab, and block through timed battles. The stretchy nature of the fighters allows for battling at distance, and the arenas can be chaotic, with stage hazards and drones present that drop bombs or juice that either replenishes your health or charges your rush meter. There are also several mini-games and various online modes to enjoy, and the game was praised for its stylish visuals and different control options, including the ability to hold one Joy-Con in each hand to control your character's respective arms. 5 more characters were released throughout the game's life as free DLC, but many fans feel Nintendo has abandoned the title, with little support after and a relatively bleak online presence when played today. So yes, ARMS, we're obviously huge fans, as was revealed by the quiz. Have you tried to play a game online recently? Sock, you know, obviously you've spent a lot of time in the game. Have
I still do. Online? I really don't have any problem finding people in casual lobbies.
Okay.
It's just ranked mode. If you're above rank like 16, which is master level, and then everyone after that is like master 2, master 3, master 4, it gets harder to find people because the people who got good at it, they're probably hosting their own tournaments and their own regions and their own little corners and not really just looking casually anymore. Yeah. But casual lobbies, I don't have any problem. But that's also kind of a problem because then, you know, it'll cycle between playing the mini games or playing, you know, a 3-player match.
Yeah.
And it's just, I'd rather play standard rules all the time, but can't fix that in a casual lobby.
How about you, Josh? Have you played the game recently?
I haven't, actually. I don't think I've really played ARMS since 2019, 2020, something like that.
Right.
Like, I have so many games that I have to play through. Yeah, pretty much. When Min Min came to Smash Bros, it's like you got to play and get footage and refresh my memory for that. There's so many games that come and go. I don't really have a time for multiplayer games very much. Like, even like in the fighting game community, like I tried to get into Tekken. I played Tekken 8 for like a good month and a bit, and then after that month and a bit, I was like, I think I'm done now. I don't think I'm not the sort of person who's like going to get into this like in the competitive landscape.
Yeah, that's
and
fair
commit
enough.
hours and hours to it. So yeah, with ARMS especially though, I think like as much as I enjoyed it, there's not a whole lot to do in the game unless you're willing to actually get into it. On a more regular basis.
Now, that's very interesting you say that, because that's the point I was going to bring up. I think, you know, 2 things really. I mean, for me, 3D fighters have never really been my thing. So I'll be honest, I did play ARMS, I enjoyed it, but I never really sort of delved deep into it because it just didn't kind of hook me in the same way that 2D fighters do. And that includes sort of platform ones like Smash Brothers, or, you know, I grew up playing a lot of Street Fighter 2 Turbo. So they're the ones that kind of really suck me in. I don't like sort of being fixed in and sort of locked onto somebody as I move around. It's just not, it doesn't sort of kind of feel right when I play it. But the thing that appealed to me about ARMS when it sort of was first shown is that it's a very stylish game, right? It looks fantastic. The character designs, the sort of world building, or the logos they have and all that kind of stuff looks amazing. But also then when I played it, I felt like they didn't really do very much with it. You know, there's kind of a loose story which they kind of told through promotional materials and stuff online, but there's not really a lot of story in the game that you get. And you know, you sort of they don't really explore the characters very well. I mean, Sok, you mentioned about the kind of lore expanding when you had that last DLC with Dr. Coil. So, you know, what kind of things what is it about the world that you kind of enjoyed in that respect?
Yeah, you know, the thing I really not just enjoyed, but still actively enjoy about the way ARMS handles storytelling, it establishes what it is and lets people figure it out. And it's not like hard to do. It's just like, I agree that they could definitely go harder to really put a spotlight on it and make people aware of how well realized the world is. But it's little things like when you fight in the Mausoleum Master Mummy stage, Biff mentions there being a mummy hospital nearby, and one of the artworks that you can unlock for the gallery is like Halloween themed, and it's Master Mummy coming out of his coffin like he's upset that he's waking up, and Min Min is in a nurse's uniform, and you might think, oh, that's a Halloween costume, but oh, does she volunteer at the mummy hospital?
Right.
And then when the Dr. Coil update came out, it was confirmed that ARMS Labs were the ones who revived Master Mummy. So it's like, yeah. And also she made Springtron, she made Helix, she made Headlock, obviously. That much is overt, that's in the cutscene and everything. And there's lots of stuff like that. Twintel is the most interesting in terms of like what we don't know or how little we do know. Right. Because they make a big deal out of her ARMS ability being mysterious, like not understanding why she's the only person observed to have it with hair. And ARMS Labs, there's a running joke about ARMS Labs doing research on each of the members and being kind of incompetent. But whenever they tried to get close to Twintel, like her habits, what product she uses, whatever, they mysteriously disappear. And I'm like, does Twintel have mafia connections?
Solid murderer, basically.
Yeah. She's the big famous celebrity.
Stuff like that.
Yeah. She got enough money to make somebody disappear. Yeah, I suppose that's fair, you know, because there are people in both camps, right? There's people that enjoy kind of like, you know, having the story and going, okay, this is the story, you know, you've unlocked the story, let us tell you the story. And then, like yourself, Sock, saying, you know, leaving it open to interpretation, having, like, you know, bits confirmed and things like that to allow for speculation. I do think there's a place for both. I just, for me, it never really sort of, it was never kind of overt to the point where that I was invested. I just never found myself particularly invested with the characters because it sort of felt like there wasn't quite enough for me to latch onto. And then, you know, I think that is just a personal preference. You know, I think something's really interesting is it feels like the progression through. So we haven't touched it, but there's different modes, you know. There's the usual kind of, it's called a Grand Prix in ARMS, where you just fight a certain amount of people, 10 people to get to the boss. And we'll talk about the mini modes, but it feels a bit like Street Fighter 2 Turbo that I mentioned earlier, in that, you know, you do a couple of fights and then you have a fight which isn't really a fight. You know, in Street Fighter you had to
like a mini game,
break a wall or smash up a car. This, you know, you have to take on somebody at hoops, which is where you have to basically shoot or dunk them into a hoop by grabbing them, or volleyball, V-ball, I think it's called. You know, it's called skill shot, the one where you're sort of just smashing targets and things like that.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, yep. and I really like that. I really like that break up in gameplay. But, you know, I then feel it never got to that point like it does in Street Fighter 4, for example, where you have a rival fight. You know, you have a rival fight before the boss fight to go, oh, this is their rival, and like uncovering those kind of bits of lore. I don't know.
I do like that idea.
Yeah.
I do wish there was something like that.
It's in my pitch. But I just felt like there were just missed opportunities like that. And that's speaking as somebody who's a sort of big fighting game enthusiast who really likes that about fighting games. I felt like that was missing for me. What do you think that in terms of a fighting game it does well, Josh, and what, where for you does it kind of fall down from your expectations?
Well, this is the thing. It is a fighting game, but like it's also, it doesn't feel like it because it doesn't go the full mile on trying to make it like a fighting game. Like the reason it struggled to, it's clearly made to be like a competitive fighting game, but it kind of struggles in that it's doesn't immediately come off as being mechanically deep enough for people to be able to pick it up and just get into it in the same way that you can with basically every other fighting game out there. It's really hard to, the game's a bit too limited in what you can do in order to really be able to pull off combos. Like I remember when they showed off the first ARMS tournament, and I think it's like Yabuki was showing off like the one combo that he really liked doing, and it's like a very simple one, and it's basically like the only good strat almost like that's universal that you can pull off. And I think that's really made ARMS struggle to stand out amongst all the more competitive fighters for the hardcore crowd. But then for the casual crowd, it suffered the same problem that Street Fighter V did, in that game came out aimed at a competitive crowd, and so just went all in on the verses. So casual Street Fighter fans didn't like it because there was basically nothing to do. It had the same issue of arcade mode, where I don't even think Street Fighter V actually had arcade mode when it came out. Like, it was that bare bones. Whereas at least like ARMS has Grand Prix, which is what arcade mode is, but it doesn't have like any sort of proper story. Like you said, the rivals battles it doesn't have. But I think at most it has a congratulations screen at the end.
Yeah,
is that like right? You get a picture, like
artwork, which they're beautiful.
It's nice, but
I want just a bit more.
Yeah,
just a bit
compared to Street Fighter, Tekken, Dead or Alive, Soul Calibur, they all had like actual videos and a story sort of thing going on. Like Tekken 8, as an example, it's the most recent one I've played, starts every arcade mode the same, where it basically gives you a brief synopsis on what this character is currently doing or why they entered the Grand Prix, and then gives you a video at the end that basically shows the conclusion of whatever their storyline was. And with the ARMS characters, and they're so well designed and they're so like personable, and you can easily like pick out a favorite from them, not even from a mechanical standpoint, just from a
visual
how they come across. But then Nintendo never capitalized on that. Like, it's something I stand by to this day, and it's a very popular opinion, but Nintendo should have done something similar to what like Blizzard was doing with Overwatch, or what Valve was doing with Team Fortress 2, where they knew that the characters they had were strong and were able to hype up those characters through external means, whether it be like the Meet the Team in Team Fortress videos. And if Nintendo had done that with ARMS, I think it would have drawn more people in purely based on the strength of their characters, but they just didn't do it. And they relied too heavily, I think, on using the Joy-Con gimmick, and that's fine. Like, that's part of the fun, but it's not going to keep people going in like a loyal fan base. It's stuff like the people who get super into the lore and like all the little hidden things around. They're the people who stick around. But you could have had more people
I
like
can
that
personally, I can personally vouch. I never use the thumbs up grip. I only ever use button and sticks.
Button and sticks, yeah.
And furthermore, adding on to what you sort of said about it not really making a good case for the casuals or the hardcore, I think it's a problem that's not exclusive to ARMS, but is kind of a wider problem with arena fighters, 3D arena fighters that are diorama based. A big part of it comes down to using your environment, your stages, as well as in ARMS' case and in its spiritual predecessor, Custom Robo's case, it's all about experimentation. Like the characters give you a set of like movement options or armor or stamina or what have you, health, and the real crux of the battle comes down to what arms you place on their hands, what armaments you give them. And that there are thousands of options to try, and people keep thinking they find the unbeatable one, but there's always a couple things that beat it. So there was never a really solid defined meta for the competitive crowd, but it also wasn't like goofy or exciting or unpredictable enough for the casual crowd.
Well, let's dive into that just a little bit more, because I think I was going to talk about the mechanics actually, but I certainly agree. I sort of found myself just kind of going, well, I could just sort of hang back in the arena and you don't sort of have to engage, and I can sort of feel like I could just sort of flail about and kind of win. But like good fighters, there is mechanical depth, and like you said, Sok, a big part of it is that you can have like 3 arms ready to go. So this is where it gets confusing, right? Arms is the condition that gives you the arms, but also arms are the name of the things on the end of the arms. So it's just arms everywhere. But if you could, because obviously I'd say you're obviously much more versed in the game than we are, Sok. Could you give like a sort of encapsulation of the mechanics of the choice of the arms that you have on your arms?
Yeah, I mean, it's fundamentally a whole bunch of different intersecting flavors of rock, paper, scissors. There are light arms, medium arms, and heavy arms, and there are different environmental effects that arms can have. If it's thunder effect, then it shocks people if you hit them with a fully charged punch. If it's ice, then it'll freeze them in place. If it's just strength, it'll just do extra damage. There's all sorts of effects that they can have, but not all of them have, and some cancel others out. It's a lot of things to keep track of, but even then, that's only if you fully charge them. If you're just throwing punches out willy-nilly, and that's the thing, too, about the casual crowd not getting it, is that there are still a lot of very typical fighting game mechanics that you need to take into account in order to optimally perform. Right? So when you've got 2 players who know what they're doing facing off, it's like a game of chess played at times 10 speed.
Yeah.
Like we're making strategic choices all over the place, really quick on the fly, but not as quick or flashy or, knowing that if you make one move, then I've set up the entire thing like a melee combo or a Marvel combo. So it kind of exists in a weird world mechanically, and I really, really like it. It really clicks with me, but obviously it doesn't click with everybody.
Yeah, I think this is the sort of crux of it, right? Is that we're almost going in a circle here and saying like they've developed a brilliant world, they've given us brilliant characters, but it's kind of they're kind of trapped in a game which kind of appeals to casual people but doesn't do enough to satisfy them, and appeals to hardcore fighting enthusiasts but doesn't necessarily dig the depth that they might want or give them the kind of opportunity to do that.
I kind of blame the hardcore audience. I don't think ARMS is doing anything wrong. I just think and it's similar with Gigabash, Custom Robo, Mobile Suit Gundam, any 3D arena fighter, the Naruto, the Dragon Ball 3D games. They don't get competitive scenes because competitive players have these hang-ups about stage hazards and RNG and stuff of that nature.
Yeah.
They want things to be really, really as pure as possible.
I know. I always love Smash Brothers chaos with weapons and stage hazards. I think that's part of the fun. Yeah, and and we haven't really touched on the levels, but the levels are bigger. They're not always just sort of circular arenas. There are stage hazards. There are things that break, things that move, and I think that's part of the charm of it. I think it would be, if it was just a one big circle, I do think it would be actually quite dull. I like that in this game. In some respects, it kind of makes me feel like it's almost like a sort of modern Power Stone. Not in many respects.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
Yeah, Power Stone's a game that I just adore from the Dreamcast era, and it's now playable, Josh, right? Through the
yeah, I think by the time this episode comes out, I think it might be playable now.
Yes, that kind of hectic 3D space where you can engage and not engage. This is fully 3D. That's kind of more isometric. So there are differences, but yeah, it's just I enjoy the chaos of it, and I kind of wish they'd leaned a bit more into it. Oh, the other thing though, before I move on to the pitches, is that I desperately searched to see if ARMS was an acronym, because I assumed that it was. Doesn't look like it is. So
nope.
If we can think of a good acronym, then let me know. I mean,
Armaments Ready Match Set.
Armaments Ready Match Set. That's pretty good. Josh, have you got one locked and loaded?
Let
Did it? Let it percolate. As long as you're still listening to the pictures, of course. But let it.
Let me after the pictures.
I haven't got
give
one.
my acronym.
Again, I searched for it and I thought about this question to ask you guys, and I couldn't even think of one. So I'm very impressed. The game is very stylish. There are a lot of pluses, but there are a lot of things I think we would change too. And luckily, we're going to have the opportunity to do that now. Because, Sock, you won the quiz, which means you are the new president of Nintendo. Congratulations. But we are the board, and we demand that you bring back ARMS, and you make it a great big success. Bring back ARMS. That's a weird sentence. So, please tell us, how do you plan to do that?
Gosh, where do I begin? I think you don't have to mess with the gameplay formula all that much. Mm-hmm. Like as little as possible, in fact. All you need to do for a sequel is A, make sure it launches with all of the same stuff you get in ARMS 1, plus a bevy of more characters, like maybe 10 more characters and 10 more stages for each of their home stages. Mm-hmm. Include more personal character-specific elements to each of their Grand Prix runs. Maybe beginning and ending cutscenes, maybe establish rivalries, maybe make them stylistically different, like Ninjara's happens on like scrolls with ink blotches, and Lola Pops is like baked onto gingerbread. I don't know, but yeah, you go harder on the characters, and you also provide unlockables beyond just the badges and the gallery. Stuff like equipment or cutscenes or trophies, things for people who are playing by themselves or casually or whatever. Just stuff to reward them for checking out everything the game has to offer. Not only because then you don't even have to go that much harder on shining a direct spotlight on the lore, because the more time they spend engaging with the other modes and unlocking things, the more they'll kind of notice, hey, wait, the victory screen for Dr. Coil is a picture of Max Brass and Dr. Coil when they were teenagers, torn in half with a tear through it. It's like, this is, what more do you need to say? I don't think the lore is that hidden. I think it's very rewarding in its current state. You just gotta direct people, guide people to it, the way Splatoon does. Nobody questions you when you say Splatoon has deep lore, because they all know, because they all played the single player campaign. You just need to have a mode or multiple modes in ARMS that give people the opportunity to discover that stuff.
Yes, I feel like Splatoon is an example of something that does a good job of wanting you to keep playing and basically giving you those little bits of unlock to sort of hook you and keep going, oh, what's this? This is weird. I don't understand this. I want to find the next thing that makes me understand this. Okay, so straight sequel, sort of more characters, more stages, more unlockables.
And the name.
Oh, go ahead.
The name.
Go on.
Everything is called ARMS. It's not great for SEO. I would change the name. The name of this sequel, sort of like how Super Mario Bros. Became the series default after Mario Bros. I would call this game Extend Arms with an exclamation point.
Extend Arms.
Right?
Extend Arms.
Cool.
That way the third one can be called like Extend Arms Ultra or Extend Arms Battle. Extend Arms Challengers. It just needs something that makes it more distinct.
Now, I thought you were going to say New Arms then.
new super arms bros.
Oh man.
So Extend Arms. Okay. Now I will say something. This to me. So you're sort of saying kind of more of the same. And what we've seen recently with Switch 2 is Kirby, for example, having like the game but improved visuals and a bit of DLC. This to me, and particularly with the name Extend Arms, feels like it might actually be a sort of DLC package on an existing thing. So do you imagine this as like a brand new title? What's the kind of, if that's the case, what's the hook to draw people in? Or could you imagine this being, hey, we've made these improvements to the game and here's even more, it's 15 quid, off you go?
I think it's a full sequel.
Right.
Because not only do you get more modes and all that, but the way it's presented as a whole will be very different. Okay. The first ARMS game just has like very streamlined yellow menus that look like the interstitials for a sports channel. This will have a nice, like, you know, something like a hub world, like maybe a locker room. And the menu are like,
nice.
There's a punching bag in the corner, there's a target in the corner, there's like, you know, the exit door, you know, the shady hallway where the story mode takes place. Just like things for you to do with like the ARMS control limitations. Like I've seen some people say ARMS should have a story mode where it's basically a 3D platform. And I'm like, how do you get a 3D platformer in a game where you have to be locked onto something to move? It's like, no. Maybe something more like Sin and Punishment,
I was about to say.
or, you know, a beat 'em up, something like that.
It's ringing a bell from last week.
But not like a fully 3D platformer type thing. That's a little too far.
So what's the single player mode for you like then? Is it like a kind of like a Grand Prix style thing, or is it something more like the lines of Splatoon where it's, you know, quite different from the core gameplay?
I think you have a Grand Prix mode still, and it has all those extra bells and whistles I mentioned. But I think there's also a mode where you play as like a customized ARMS character who is your own, right? Sort of like the way Splatoon does it, specifically so that you can get a look at the ARMS world outside when the cameras aren't rolling.
Nice.
Right? Maybe you are an ARMS lab operative. They mentioned during Dr. Coyle's update how she'd send her goons to go try and get information on the other characters. Maybe that's you. You know, and maybe you uncover something and maybe you have to stop it. I don't know. And maybe it's sort of an ongoing thing like Salmon Run, but then with updates, like depending on who wins party crashes, you know, you vote for either Min or Master Mummy. If Master Mummy wins, then maybe Master Mummy, you know, intercedes in the next like rollout of that mode, that like undercover mode. I don't know, just spitballing.
Yeah, no, that's great. Josh, any questions for this pitch?
So, as we all know, in trying to hype up the original ARMS, they intended to make a comic book series of it that didn't end up going anywhere,
I forgot about
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But we put time and effort at Nintendo into making that comic series. So how will we repurpose it for this new game? How are we going to reuse this to either pull the lore from that into this game or use this game to get people to buy comics of ARMS so we can get our money's worth?
Yeah.
I think that is a great idea. The Ian Flynn penned Dark Horse publication of the ARMS graphic novel, which was apparently going to be 3 books and then done. I think totally, let's get it done. Let's put it on physical store shelves and let's really branch out into comics and graphic novels here at Nintendo. But for NSO subscribers or NSO expansion pack subscribers, maybe we offer, you know, ARMS becomes the bastion for our online comics reading app. Kind of like our version of Marvel Unlimited.
I like that. That's very nice.
Next question. The first ARMS game had Springman and Ribbon Girl as the front runners. But we know that when with Smash Brothers and with Min Min and stuff, Ibuki was like, well, there isn't really a main character in ARMS. They're all the main characters. So my question for you is, which 2 characters are we putting on the spotlight this time? Is it just 2? In fact, could it be 4 characters? Who are we putting front and center for all the kids to want to grow up to be like?
I think we're sort of... It's going to be a tableau with like 3 different layers of action. Distance, mid-ground, foreground. So we're getting a good variety of characters. Springman and Ribbon Girl are back, but they're probably in the distance, you know, of this box art cover. Up front and center, we have Min Min facing off against one of our new characters to communicate this is the sequel. And in the middle of the thing, I don't know, maybe got something kind of goofy and charming going on. Maybe somebody who is engaging, you know, in a pose that communicates a new mechanic. You know, like the ability to switch arms mid-match or something, you know, however you do that.
All right. Very nice. Have you got any ideas for any new characters?
Oh boy. So
is one a sock?
I don't know if I don't know if this is too long of a tangent, but you guys have to look up on Nintendo's YouTube channel. I believe Yabuki did an interview about how ARMS characters are made, and it's really fascinating how they do it. They first think of a material that can be springy and coiled, but cool. Then they think, okay, what kind of characters do we associate with this stuff? And then they think, how do we put a spin on that type of character that isn't usual? That's why they have a buff mummy, because you never see buff mummies. But it's so also Nintendo. Bandages, so it can heal him. So it's sports bandages. So he's a buff boxer mummy, and that's probably why they also say there's a mummy hospital, because the bandages aren't like grody bandages. They're nice, pristine medical bandages.
That's so good. That's just like...
that is good.
So
I know,
Nintendo.
right?
It's such brilliant design philosophy. It's just outrageous.
But I didn't answer your question. There would be a puppetry focused character. I tell you what, it would be 2 characters, right? They're twins. Whoa. One of them has the ARMS ability on their left arm. One of them has the ARMS ability on their right arm. Nice. And together they operate a traditional Japanese Banruku style puppet character whose head is like a repurposed face arm, like a birdie or a dragon.
Very cool.
Nice.
All right, and who's developing this for you?
Well, Nintendo EPD9, of course. They have just been flooding with ideas. They have just been itching to get this done. But Mario Kart takes precedence.
Yeah, it's fair. Probably sell more copies than Extend Arms. Not that I don't think Extend Arms is going to sell well, but I just think Mario Kart might have the edge.
Yeah, there might be a couple more people interested in Mario Kart. Just a couple, though.
Just a couple. Just 50 or 60 million more copies. Nothing. Just a small drop. Okay, right. This is very clear for me. I like this. It's kind of more of the same, but offering like a richer, kind of deeper experience. I mean, presumably, sort of mechanically. Obviously, you've talked about adding, the ability to switch arms out and things like that, but still plays very similarly. Any questions for you, Josh, to finish off?
Will we be able to monetize the online with some kind of battle-like pass?
Boo.
Well,
I mean, if we're the board, then yes,
the updates will.
Yes.
The updates will continue to be free so far as that goes, but there will be Nintendo Switch 2 camera and chat integration for particular spectator modes and a couple mini games. Byte's Penny Barcade mini games that use the Switch's special features. Exclusive for people who subscribe to Game Chat.
I got to tell you, Byte's Penny Barcade is an excellent pun to pull out of thin air. I'm gonna just a little. Very good, well done.
Thank you.
That's a great pitch to start off with. But now, Josh, you are now the president of Nintendo, and we are still the board, and we still demand that you bring back ARMS and make it a great success. So please tell us, how would you plan to do it?
All right. So I'm gonna step up to the mic. Gonna look out and I'll be like, all right, let's think about ARMS. Let's think retrospectively. Like, it was fun. People enjoyed playing it. People liked the characters a lot. They said there were issues with it as a fighting game. It wasn't as mechanically deep as the other competitive fighting games. There wasn't enough stuff to do there. It's like, we wanted this game to exist where people would play it throughout the whole Switch generation, and some people did, but just not enough people. So we need to expand out our thinking for this game. And when it came out, a lot of people, they really liked the characters and the designs and stuff, and they were like comparing it to other popular games. So we're gonna follow suit. And then I turn around and I slap a screen, and Overwatch appears behind me. And I'm like,
okay,
we are going to turn ARMS into not a squad-based team shooter, but a squad-based team puncher in our new game, Team ARMS. It's going to be, we're expanding it out. It's no longer 1v1 or 2v2. We're going to have squads of 4 ARMS across much bigger arenas. The gameplay, still going to be pretty much the same. Now, I know before you had to lock onto people in order to do stuff, and you'll have the ability to lock onto opponents when they get closer, so you can tussle it out in the streets. But we'll have the ability for you to unlock from people so that you can then escape and run away. Your characters they could jump. You could jump on springs to get higher. We're going to keep that around. We're now going to add a few more movement options. Like, what do you think of when you think of a spring? You think of like a grapple hook sort of thing. You think of the ability to swing. So we're going to have it so that you can like punch forward and latch onto stuff and use it to pull yourself up or swing around, a bit more playing with the environment. Nice. And by making it a bit more team-based, we can introduce new arms that are a bit more like support-focused or defense-focused. Not everything has to be some kind of spin on an offensive attack with slight variation, slight elemental stuff. We can have proper support classes as long as it fits into an arm. Like, maybe what you can have is you see a teammate getting attacked up ahead, they're losing, that you got your ultra hand arm ready to go. You ultra punch hand, forward, you grab your team member, and you bring them into safety.
Very cool.
And then you're rescuing people that way. One of the new arms fighters we're gonna have. It's gonna be a fisherman. It's gonna have fishing hooks on his arms.
All right.
So exactly that purpose, so that he can swing forward and pull things to him.
What's his name?
Pull things away.
Or can I pitch one?
Yeah, go on. I'm willing to hear.
Can he be Rowdy Reilly Piper?
Yes, he can. Yes, he can.
I love Rowdy. He's so funny.
He can.
Excellent. There we go.
Nice.
Okay. Anything to add before we open up to the floor?
Well, yes. So I've only really just sort of explained the basic concept of it.
He has come to play. Go on.
We are going to have proper story elements to this. I don't want to go like full in where we explain all the lore, obviously. I like the idea that there are some things that are obvious, there are some things that you have to dig deeper for, there are some things that are like basically based around the stage. Oh god, I've forgotten the phrase now for it. Stuff that the Soul series
mystery,
are really good at.
Environmental
storytelling, that's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Like, so every character will obviously have their own arena, and we'll have things around that, like how Twintail likes cars, and that's why her arena is full of cars, and so we'll have more things hidden around that, that give a bit more details for each of the characters. And each character, has its own sort of specific arena, and we'll do, but every character through like a more single player, because we still want to have like a kind of arcadey mode, right? It's a more single player driven, because the thing with team shooters is that they're very multiplayer driven, and that's part of the point. But we do want to have some things for single players to use. So we're going to have like each character will have their own sort of driven story mode that's not too long, but it teaches you, the players, the basic mechanics of each of these characters, what their special gimmicks are.
Okay.
And tells you a little bit about them as they go through this Grand Prix type deal put on by the Arms Federation, or whatever they're called. I forgot what they're called now.
The Arms League.
Arms League, that's it. As Biff guides you through, teaching you about each of your characters' special gimmicks. And we'll have different modes. We're going to have collectibles. We're going to give characters different costumes that they can unlock. Like, not just colour swap palette swaps. We're going to have different outfits that the characters can wear that you'll have to unlock. Obviously, different arms. That's a given. We're going to have the mini games. We're going to bring back the basketball one. We're going to bring back the skill one. These are all good ways to teach players how to play. And, we can even have a training mode where it is 1v1 still. We can have the more traditional arms thing in there as, like, an extra mode where you can fight. For the people who like it, the gameplay is going to already be there, so it's just going to be, we just have to set the room up like that.
Okay, yeah.
So I don't see why we couldn't have it, but it's just not going to be the focus, because the core focus is going to be the team battle, the team squad elements of it.
All right. That's a big shift. I mean, I think that's a really exciting idea. How big do you kind of envisage the stage being that you sort of, that this battle takes place on?
I mean, it's got to be pretty large. Like, you got to be able to go places and not see people, so that you can, like, if you want to be sneaky or sneak up on people. So, like, I'm picturing, like, something similar in scope to the Splatoon, like, arenas in terms of size.
Yep.
Like, the same sort of idea where they're basically, it doesn't matter which side you spawn on, it's parallel. Like, it'll be the same regardless. So we're going to take from the Splatoon team. They're going to help design some of these maps for us.
Okay. So who's the developer then?
The developer's still EPD9.
Right.
We're still doing that. Yabuki is still leading, but, you know, Nintendo's a fluid company. We can steal the Splatoon map designers for a couple of years. I'm sure they won't mind. I'm sure they won't be missed.
Yeah, they're probably not working on 4.
Yeah.
Okay, so, wow. I mean, that is a big old thing. Do you feel like that with that it might then slightly tread on Splatoon's toes, or do you think they could sort of happily coexist?
I think they can happily coexist. Right. Like, yes, Splatoon is also a team shooter, but it's one where you paint the ground, and it's got its own sort of style to it. It's got its own settings. It does all the Splatfest stuff. I don't think you need to do that necessarily for ARMS. I think you can have two very multiplayer driven games side by side as long as they play and act differently enough. So just because it's got a team doesn't mean it's the same team.
This is true. I've been hogging the floor a bit. Sock, please, any questions for Josh and his pitch?
I am very curious how, Mr. President, you will make this game more woke.
That's a good question.
See.
It's Josh's specialty.
Yes. It is.
Yes.
Obviously.
It's a challenge with this one. We put a lot of the work in already with the first entry. But how are we really going to seal the deal for the sequel? How are we going to top it?
Look, it's going to have to be all through the characters, right? That's going to be how you have to do it. And the relationships, because we're going to have to set the relationships. I remember Overwatch, it went woke. It did same-sex relationships immediately with its main characters. We can introduce that. We can do just that. But we're a bit more kid-friendly in ARMS, so we don't want to be, like, too explicit about it. We'll have a lot of implied stuff.
Okay, I swear to God, Josh, if you say data mechanics when John isn't here, I'm gonna lose my mind. All right, no, it's banned for this episode. It's banned. But
unless you buy the DLC,
I think relationship building. All right, so tell me how you're going to subtly implement all this relationship building.
It's part of the story and the lore stuff. Like, we'll have videos for these characters, and like, maybe you'll find out like Twintail lives with another a friend of hers that she's known for a long time.
I think, that's about as far as Nintendo would go, isn't it? Sort of like, 2 confirmed bachelors.
Yes, living in the same bed.
Okay, I mean, yeah, lovely. Inclusion's lovely. Who could argue with that? Okay. Any more questions? Any more questions, Sock?
Just one. Amiibos. Will we do Amiibos?
It up. We will. Well, we'll give it a season. All right. If the first season comes and goes, and the ARMS fan base has latched onto this, easy Amiibo time. All right. Easy. We'll introduce them bit by bit. Like, we'll start with
what will they do in the game?
Girl. You'll be able to take your custom ARMS character, not custom as in you made your own character, although we could implement that maybe in a couple seasons down the line, but like I said, you have different costumes, different arms. You can put loadouts of your arms, like your Springman amiibo, you tap him on, whatever your Springman looks like in your game with his specific loadout, his specific costume, tap it in, toe to your friends switch, tap it on there, it immediately pops up on the character select screen, your exact loadout. You don't have to scramble around on their Switch, having to make it there. It'll have all the button combinations, everything. And then maybe you'll get like
even your custom controls, your control setup too.
I think we can do your custom control setup. Nice. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, awesome. I actually liked that application that they had in Smash Brothers. That it was like you train up your own little fighter, and it's sort of I quite liked that, but I also kind of wish it would be like, yeah, however I set up my character, like, just save it in this, just so I can go to friend's house and go boop without messing about with stuff.
There is one stipulation though with the amiibo that I'm saying now. It's not going to be like the Min Min amiibo. we're going to have their arms be flexible. Like
That's all I wanted to
good.
hear. That's all I wanted to hear.
That's it.
Sold.
It's like the Guardian amiibo, like where you can move its arms around.
Oh, it's the best
We're gonna
one.
bring that technology back and make it so every arms you can just pull out like
Technology, plastic, and wires.
That forbidden technology.
God, I really like this idea. I wouldn't have sort of pitched
I know
it
you
as it's really. I'm sort of like, do you know? It's because I was expecting everyone to just be like sort of a variation on kind of like a one-on-one fighter, but God, that's really interesting.
You gotta think outside the box.
You got to think
That's
outside
how
the box.
you
That's
get
how
the
you make
sales.
That's how you do it.
That's how you do it.
All right,
I was tempted to just veer in the other direction and say we're doing the leg spin-off, but it's an on-foot racing game.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm feeling a bit bashful about my pitch now. Josh, that's I can't think of anything else to say about that. I think it's an interesting new direction. I think it'd be really engaging. You've still got the option to play the game in the way you wanted to, but you're kind of leaning into lore, and like Sok was saying earlier about the kind of the deepness of the metagame, switching out the arms. Actually, then to kind of multiply that by 4 and having a squad of players. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great. And I presume you'd go nuts on kind of environmental things and stage design and stuff.
Yeah. That's part of the element of having it be a bigger stage that you can, like I said, you can do swinging stuff like grappling and pulling yourself around.
Really good.
And it doesn't have to go up to swing like that. You can swing around poles as well, sort of thing to get around corners faster. There's a lot you can do.
I tell you what, that is no more questions from me. That is a very complete pitch and a very interesting idea. Any more questions from you, Sok?
No, when can I play?
Yeah. Ooh, I like both of these so far. Mine's not going to go well. So we are low on time. So I will quickly fire out my pitch, and I'll take a couple of questions from the board. But mine is Arms 2. I'm sorry, I couldn't think of a good name. Extend Arms. What is it? Extend Arms and Team Arms. They're so good. Mine is just Arms 2. But maybe the S is the 2. As backwards.
2 arms.
2 arms. Catch it.
2 arms.
But so my I've talked about this. My big issue with the game is kind of like the stylishness of it not being utilized to its full effect. So mine is gonna really, really lean into the story element of it. I want there to be an expanded roster, so there's going to be 10 extra characters, and the story is that Headlock basically gains complete sentience and is actively trying to make like an army of genetically engineered arms fighters. So you have some people that are siding with him and some people aren't. So it's kind of like a civil war within the arms universe. No mouse mode or anything. I want the controls to be as they were. But the big issues I have with the combat in arms is that the arenas, I like the arenas. I like the sort of craziness of them. I considered a Power Stone approach, but I don't want that. I want to keep it in that kind of arena, but I want them to be tighter, smaller and more focused. And I want the gameplay, I want the arms, this is going to sound weird, I want the arms to stretch less far, because I feel like you can get just too bogged down in being too far away, things not connecting, it can be quite frustrating. And the way I want to balance that is by saying, it's like a piston, right? If you're close and you unleash the spring, there's more force. So the closer you are, the more damage you can do to somebody. The further away, the weaker your punches are. So you're kind of having to sort of balance out.
I think that's already a mechanic.
Great. I didn't know that because I'm a complete novice. So that's coming back, but we're going to crank it up to 11.
Yeah.
And, the strategy is you really want to corner people, sort of hammer them with the arms. There's more things to break that. So make it slightly more mechanically deep. Just sort of lean to the strategy of it. I like the something in Street Fighter 4, which I loved, was the kind of counter, where instead of blocking, if you press a button combination, you counter. Then if somebody hits you, you can kind of absorb that and turn it back to them. So more mechanical stuff with that. I want them to be new characters, things like sticky bombs and juice that you can hold that you can maybe drink as you want and somebody can nick out of your hand. And I went a bit mad with the 10 new characters. So we've got this story. And I'll tell you some of the characters that I thought of. Well, the people I wanted to develop it are Next Level Games, because I think they do the best animation. I think they do wonderful things with those characters. They made Punch-Out. So the first character we're going to have is Mr. L, a familiar face. He's got a little red vacuum glove and a little King Ghost glove. Who is his identity? Who knows? So obviously it's Luigi. They're going to have a character called Grizzle Mac, who is an old fighter who was kidnapped and then turned into an arms fighter. So yes, Grizzle Mac's there. We've got Dr. Corkscrew, who's Dr. Coil's kind of mortal enemy, but is the good doctor who's trying to save everybody from this thing. You've got Feather Duster, who's a maid who's had enough of her life of servitude. You've got Tricep, a cyborg who's got a big fist in his chest that kind of pops out and goes poof as he's like punching around.
I like that.
You've got Barilla, who's a gorilla that throws barrels. Wonder where that's come from. Cheeky little leans into Nintendo's history. And then, with the DLC, we have the reveal of legs. Not just arms, legs are coming. So these are characters that have the spirals on their legs. You've got Gumshoe, who's a detective, who's out to reveal corruption in the Arms League, and is, of course, a nod to the NES classic Gumshoe. You've got Half and Calf, a man who wants to be a cow and dresses like a cow and has hooves on his legs. I started to run out of ideas at this point. You've got Ronda.
These are amazing.
You've got Ronda Jean, which is a ballerina with a very strong legs. It's also a ballet move, a Ronda Jean. But you've got Ronda Jean, there's the ballet dancer. And then you've got the nice crossover, you've got Chun Spring. I mean, I don't think I need to say any more about Chun Spring. She's just an awesome leggy fighter. You've got the arcade mode, you have the story, you have your rival battle, then you have the story at the end of it, you find out which side of the fence they fall on. And once you finish the story with everybody, you unlock Headlock and his story. So it's all about the story, all about the cutscenes, all about finding those unlockables and trying to find out everybody's story in ARMS. There are costumes to unlock and things like that. Unlocks that are kind of things you want to sort of add to your character to make them your own. And just a small thing, I want the combat to be faster. ARMS never felt fast enough to me. So just a little bit quicker. People move a little bit quicker. And that's it. That's my pitch. And the acronym is the Armored Resistance Movement Snakes. I haven't got it. Can't do it.
And Kid Cobra's on the box art.
Yeah.
That was exactly it. That's exactly what I was thinking. We have time for one question each from the board. So, Sock, I will be accepting any questions you might have.
All right. First off, I love the new characters. They're very F-Zero coded. Yeah. I get big James McCloud and Zoda vibes from these guys.
Who's he based on?
But I suppose my question is now, Headlock. In ARMS 1, we found out that Headlock is essentially a weapon that was designed by Dr. Coil to be the ultimate fighter, or to bring out the ultimate power in people. We saw her destroy a Headlock, but obviously there must be more because you can use them in multiplayer. Is this Headlock the original Headlock or the latest Headlock? And where does Dr. Coil fall on the side of the with or against in this Civil War?
Excellent questions, and all things I had considered previously. So I think... Right, so Dr. Coil brought back Master Mummy, right? Master Mummy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Dr. Coil brought... Yeah. So I think Master Mummy is sort of enraged by this and sees Headlock and sympathises with Headlock as another creation that was born against its will. So Master Mummy has somehow found the remnants and patched it together, and they're in league with each other. So Dr. Coil agrees with what Headlock's doing in engineering these genetically superior humans, but ultimately doesn't side with Headlock and begrudgingly sides with Dr. Corkscrew, her mortal enemy. So I really want the stories to be ridiculously deep for such cartoonish characters. I think it would just be a lot of fun. Oh, that's a nice question.
I love that.
It's Master Mummy, and I definitely already had that in my notes. Definitely. Josh, any questions from yourself?
So with the leg squad, so I'm assuming it works the same way as the arms do, where you can customize their feet this time instead.
Yeah, so a couple of things I didn't mention. So they are much more about verticality, right? So they must have crazy big jumps. So it's more about going like, oh, and like sort of stomping down as opposed to traveling across the stages. So maybe their stages have that in mind. You know, it's kind of harder to navigate. You have the advantages. You have those legs. I also, I will mention that I considered having a legs character like Twintel, where a different appendage gets lengthened and spiraled. But I couldn't come up with any good ideas, and I think we all know what I'm talking about. I thought, I don't think Nintendo are going to lean into that. Sock, get those eyes away from me. You know, and stop it. So yes, they are all legs, and it's a shifting gameplay, right? It sort of freshens up the gameplay because it introduces a kind of new axis to the gameplay, basically.
Who are we putting on the front cover? Are we? How hard are we advertising the legs part of this? Are we having a legs character on the front, or is it meant to be like a?
I think it's a surprise. I think it's going to be free DLC again, well supported, and it's going to be like when everybody sort of dips off of arms. It's hey, we've introduced these characters, and it changes up the gameplay, and people go and they jump back in. So, do we have one of the new characters? You can't have Grizzle Mac or Mr. L, but you could have. Like, I mean, Feather Duster, a sort of a saucy French maid one might go down very well with some of the dads. But no, you know, I quite like Springman being the de facto one. But maybe you lean into Dr. Coil and Dr. Corkscrew, the kind of light and dark of it, and Headlock. Make it more their story. So I quite like Dr. Coil, Dr. Corkscrew, Headlock, Ribbon Girl, Springman. But then I always like Street Fighter, you know, the old artwork where they just had everybody. I think the roster's so rich and so deep that you have the roster, you know, and just celebrate these great characters that they've created. So the answer is we're dropping the focus because it didn't work, and we're gonna be more focused by including everybody. No, we're gonna celebrate the roster.
Very nice. One very final, not that consequential question.
Go for it.
Because Master Mummy has an integral role in the story, can we confirm what the name of his wife and child are?
Is that a thing?
Yes.
That's his motivation for joining the tournament.
I didn't really play as Master Mummy. Guys, I barely played this game. Like, I liked it, but I barely played it. What's the thing?
You threw him into the
spotlight. He has a smoking hot wife and a beautiful baby boy. What are their names?
Yeah. Their names are Mrs. Daddy and Little Buddy. that's perfect. That's the best.
No, that's perfect.
And we are out of time. So there you have it. 3 ways to revive the ARMS series. But do you like Josh's Team ARMS, a squad-based punch 'em up in the style of Overwatch, leaning into the rich character roster with expanded movesets and more movement options on the battlefield, a big lean into the world's lore through environmental storytelling, single player retains its arcade feel and teaches you how best use to each character, with lots of unlocks, costumes, minigames, all here to boot, developed by EPD9? Or do you like Socks Extend ARMS? A straight sequel to the first game, but with more characters, more stages, and more unlockables, with a locker room and a dedicated story mode, with Min Min and a new 2-player, single arm each puppeteer front and centre on the advertising, with a dedicated comic app too, developed also by Nintendo EPD? Or do you like my return to the formula, with an expanded roster, the introduction of legs, tighter arenas and faster combat, all in a more story-driven experience developed by Next Level Games? Or do you have a better idea yourself? Let us know in the comments below. Whilst you're there, please do like and subscribe. You can find us all over on Bluesky. I'll chuck the links in the description. But for now, Sock. I was about to say ARMS. Sock, thank you so much for coming back.
That'd be apropos. That's what they say before battle start. They go, ready? Arms.
Arms, yeah. I mean, I think last time I called you kid, so it would be fitting to say kid, arms, sock. Just
don't mention a kid.
Any one sort of word phrase. Thank you very much for coming back and chatting arms with us.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for having me. This is a delight. I am always happy to talk arms. If anyone's listening out there, if you've got a show and you want to talk arms, I'm there.
Hey, this is my show. No, that's good. Josh, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, Josh,
I'm so used to talking about older games.
I know.
Like,
this is the
I don't talk
one.
about new games. I mean, I guess Federation Force is newish, but like this is the newest game I've talked about, and the most nervous I was coming into one because I was like, I don't pay attention to anything that happened in the last 10 years. What am I going to say?
Well, it's dormant. It's so sad that it's dormant. And you're so, thank you. A personal thank you as well, because you've been a poorly boy this week. So thank you for dragging yourself out of bed and joining us for this chat. Really appreciate it. Thank you as well so much for being here and for listening. But for now, that's game over. Goodbye.